Knock, knock.
Who's there?
HIPAA.
HIPAA who?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you. But the reason why we have to do all of this is patient data is very, very important. Hey, good day and welcome to the Offsite Team podcast. I'm here with my good friend April, and we were just chatting in this era of hacks, cybersecurity, and for those of us in the healthcare field, there is nothing worse than wondering, what if my patient data ever gets stolen? Since a lot of us do use remote workers, cybersecurity is of the utmost importance. Encryption and making sure only those who need to look at patient data can. You don't want anyone to know it. Hey, I'm going to start this podcast, though, April, with a little bit of a joke. Are you okay with the joke?
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't even know if do you guys have knock knock jokes in the Philippines?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So here it is. Knock knock.
Who's there?
HIPAA.
HIPAA who?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you. So that's about the extent. I am a dad of 4 kids.
That's a good one.
You know, HIPAA is of vital importance. We cannot tell anyone patient data. So I like to joke in our store. Hypothetically speaking, do not sue me, Michael Jordan. But let's say Michael Jordan were to come into our store. He did not. I'm just using it as an example. If Michael Jordan comes into our store or anyone else's store, and let's say he needs to get a great pair of disposable underwear, i.e. diapers. I might want to go home and tell my son, hey, guess what? I saw Michael Jordan and he was wearing diapers. This is satire. Don't sue me. I would not be able to tell my family member that I saw a famous figure in our store. Why? HIPAA. And it should be that way. It should. If you come in, whether you want to talk ostomy supplies, diapers, CPAP, it is all secure. It is one of those things. This is one of the great things we have in our country, that whatever happens between you and whether it be a therapist or a doctor or a medical supply, it goes nowhere. Now, sometimes we have our customers post to our Facebook page, Howard's took great care of us and our CPAP supplies. That's them sharing. I cannot share any of that. It is HIPAA, and I absolutely love HIPAA. Now, tell me, do you guys have HIPAA in the Philippines or a version of it? Or can you just say, hey, I saw this famous person getting diapers in our store?
Yeah, we actually do have that in every company. So, and that is to protect, of course, data security. We do have that company policy. But I would say that don't sue me as well. It is not the same as what we practice with our US clients.
And so I was just going over with our chief financial officer today, and we were bringing on another new client. And we have, so amongst our offsite team, we have what's called a BAA. And it basically means that what we see, because if we have our team looking at your data, we might be able to see some things. But it's one of those things. We signed this form saying that data is going nowhere, and we only have the exact eyes on it that needs to look at it. It is your data. And so, for example, let's say if someone hires one of our offsite team members to work on your CPAP, they need to know who the person is. Now, let's get into the back end, because people want to always know, because we would be called like, what's a third party? Because for anyone who hires us, we are not that company. You can hire us at any time. You can fire us at any time. We are not part of the organization. Now, I will say, because they work with our, one of our companies, Howard's Medical, we are fully accredited by CMS. We follow all the rules, and we understand what those rules are. So the first thing I want to go over is when our offsite team works on data, where is that data housed? Is that data in the Philippines or is that data in the United States? Do you want to answer that question, April?
Absolutely. So that data is in the United States, which is why we do have remote computers that we are using.
And it always has to be. At no time ever is any US data in the Philippines. Now, you might say, well, how do you guys do that? Because how can you work remotely in the Philippines and look at data which is housed actually in physical buildings in the United States? And you do this by remote access. So it'd be similar to like almost watching a TV. So even though today you're in the Philippines and you're talking with me, at no time is any stuff stored on your computer in the Philippines. It's as simple as that. It's remote access. It is encrypted on both ends. I don't want to give away too much of a spidey secrets, but let's say you are putting in multiple passwords. You're using
Mhm.
multiple factor authentication to get in just to see the data. And then even then, all the data is always housed in the United States. So it's one of those things people wonder, well, how secure is it? Well, it's as secure as it is here in the United States. I could walk back and go grab your computer right now and show everyone, here's your computer, because your computer,
Right.
not only is it housed in the United States, where it's housed in the United States is behind two separate doors.
Mhm.
So no one has access to it except for about three of us in the building who basically is IT. So that's one of those things. Where's the data housed? It's here in the United States. Now, I
Mhm.
will say, even then, most of the data is not even here at our location. Your computer is here in Yakima, Washington, is where your computer is. So let's say if someone were to pull up your IP address, and for those who don't know, an IP address, every computer has an IP address. It is
Mhm.
very, very specific. People know where you're at. They can find out where we're recording this podcast
Correct. Mhm.
by to the street by looking at our IP address, people. So this is where anything that happens on computers is not anonymous. So they can see, hey, where we are located in Yakima. But even
Mhm.
then, what we use is the software that we use in our medical supply is called Brightree. Brightree is another layer of authentication. So what
Mhm.
we do is there is a setting in Brightree, and I strongly recommend, even if you don't use Offsite Team, those who use Brightree, turn on, there's a way you can only access Brightree from a very specific IP address. So this is where, let's say, well, I'm Eric, and let's say Eric is my Brightree username. I have my
Mhm.
password. Even if you were to steal my username and steal my password, you would not be able to log into our Brightree address unless you were in our building. So that's
Mhm.
one more layer of security for those customers who are using Brightree, and you can plug in what IP addresses to access the Brightree data. Every company is a little bit different how they do it. That's just one of the things that we do. Do you find it hard to access data in Brightree from the Philippines? How long does it take you to log in, and what are you looking at, April?
I'd say seconds,
Yeah.
absolutely
Mhm.
easy.
Yeah. And even then, we also, in addition to that, most people don't even know their passwords because, in addition to
Mhm.
this, we use what's called, well, I can tell people what we use. We use a program called 1Password. And
Mhm.
essentially, what that is someone remembers one password to get into their password vault. And that's where all the passwords are stored. So you can hold a gun to my head and say, Eric, give me your Brightree password. I'm like, I don't even know what it is. I have my 1Password vault. So
Mhm.
to get into our data is really, really hard. You have to go A, then B, then C, then D. Then you have to be in. It's a little bit like one of those, bank robbery, movies. Have you ever
Right.
seen those movies where they're trying to steal $100 million, or they're
Mhm.
trying to steal this big painting? It's a lot of work. But the reason why we have to do all of this is patient data is very, very important. I was at a conference this week, and I was joking with someone else, and I had never thought of this. And one of their red flags is any business that uses like a Yahoo or a Gmail
Mhm.
address as their primary business. I never thought of this. And that's not as secure. I mean, it's secure, but it's not as secure as if you pay for your own
Right.
email address that then is protected by, like, we use Microsoft 365. So you would have to
Mhm.
have our company name and then go through this. It's way, way harder to hack. And that's just one of the things that we do to make sure that that's protected. And it's, for
Mhm.
obvious reasons, if there's a data breach, and in the United States, unfortunately, we've had a lot of data breaches. I mean, let's just think back to
Yeah.
Change Healthcare this year. I want to say like
Mhm.
51% of all American, well, I would almost go so far as say all Americans were affected by this data breach, whether they knew it or not. I think it was 51% of all processing of insurances were
Mhm.
impacted because of the Change Healthcare data breach that just brought it down. And that
Mhm.
was from, I don't know if you know this, that was from one person within that organization not using multi-factor authentication.
Oh.
And so it's one of those things. Here we are, small company, all worried about that. And like, how can you be this big and not do that? I could
Mhm.
also talk about Primera. They had a data breach years ago. Target had one. I think it was all the way back in 2013. There have been so many data breaches. It's just crazy. But it's one of those things. If someone chooses to use remote workers, we've got to have our standards very, not only high, 99.999% of the way high. So that's one of the things we do. Now, also one of those things, we do like to have a little bit of fun with this. So we will not sometimes, we do frequently, we're going to test our team members and we will pretend to hack them to see if they'll click on links they're not supposed to click on. Hey, have you seen those emails that we've sent in, April?
Yes.
Do you guys like them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So what we also do is we will purposely try to spoof our team members with emails that they're not supposed to click on. So we'll make them look really weird, but they'll be just one-off because there are certain emails people should not click on because they can infect their computer. Even if your computers, though, were infected, there's really not much that can happen because even if they got into your computer, they would then have to get through the 3 layers of security. And then we also have some back-end server-based protections that I can't talk about it. I mean, if you want to call and talk offsite team with me, I will tell you what those backends are. I'm not about to publish this on the internet because it's kind of like asking our government or asking the IRS, how do you figure out tax cheats? Or our CIA, what do you use to track down terrorists? They're not going to tell you. We do know that stuff's out there, and we have that backend as well, too. So that's what we have. But we do frequently phish our team members to make sure that they are not clicking on certain links. We do spot checks of computers every single month where we're looking, we remote in, we look at their back end to make sure that they have not downloaded programs that might be able to basically a key log in. I mean, you might say, well, it could happen if you were to get a key log. We do everything we can. We're always scanning, we're always patching. And you know this because your husband's one of our IT guys. This is one of his jobs, is to make sure we are locked down. So, when I say all this, what comes to mind for you?
With the regular software updates that we do, it's on a monthly basis. We ensure that all devices and softwares are regularly checked, the remote, and then our own computer, where we can access the remote computer in the United States. Another thing is, I just wanted to let the viewers know that in Offsite team, we always make sure before we hire an Offsite team member, we also check their Wi-Fi connections because we want to make sure that they use a secure Wi-Fi connections and it's not a public Wi-Fi, which can also trigger cybersecurity.
Absolutely. You make a really good point. So no one ever from the Offsite team is ever working at a local coffee shop. They are working either in one of our offices or they are working in their home with a secure wired internet connection. It's that simple. And then, in terms of looking at computers and whether you work with Offsite team or not, one of the things you want to do hey, is my computer up to snuff? There's all sorts of scanning. So you want to scan your computer. And then if there's ever any patches, and frequently whether you're using Windows or Google Chrome frequently has a lot of updates. All your programs have updates. So what you want to do is you want to scan, then you want to do any updates, and then you want to scan again. So if you're ever curious, what do? You scan, you update, and you scan. If you're doing what we're doing, you're also paying someone else to try to hack our system at the same time. And because it's better to find the holes in the system yourself before a bad guy does, and then you get hit with ransomware. And we have other things built into it as well, too, that we just can't talk about it. But I can tell you, we definitely have it, and we've been inspected, and we're doing well. But you never know, because if Change Healthcare can get taken down, anyone can get taken down. So this is one of those things. Always look. We force our team members to frequently change their passwords. They're not allowed to use the same password for anything. So their email password has to be different than their Brightree password, which has to be different than our HR password. And we have a couple other programs. No 2 passwords can be the same, and they need to be different, and they need to be random. And then, so let's also go into another layer that we offer, and I'm sorry to bore people with, but it's one of those things. You'd rather be confident in the company that you're working with, that we've done the back end work. So what you can do is work on your business. You don't want to have to worry about cybersecurity. We have screen tracking. Tell us a little bit about screen tracking without telling too much. What's the purpose of screen tracking and how that works?
For me, this screen tracking is not to be nosy whether or not the team member is working well. I mean, it's part of that, but most importantly is that we use it for training purposes. Like if the KPI is not being met, we use that screen tracking in order to check and see if there's something iffy. Maybe we can help the team member when they're struggling. And at the same time, in the line with cybersecurity, we can also check what are the sites that they are accessing when
Absolutely.
they're working.
Because in our business, we're only going to really access a certain amount of sites. We're accessing our
Mhm.
email. We're accessing our Brightree, which is our CRM. Other companies use different ones. So we know what they're using. We're doing a lot of insurance verification. So depending on who it
Mhm.
is, are they interacting with like United's portal, Medicare's portal, our
Right.
Medicaid portal? We pretty much know what they are. And every week, our IT team looks at all the sites and
Mhm.
time that each computer has accessed every single site, how much they're typing, how much they're mousing around.
Mhm.
And then it's also, we don't automate everything. We actually look at things. There was a huge hack. It was not a hack. There was if you've read the New York Times or you name it, Wells Fargo had something called mouse jigglers, and that
Mhm.
bank, some people, they were actually, to make it look like they were working, the
Right.
bank had people using mouse jigglers, which would kind of jiggle the mouse around. And this is
Mhm.
also one of those, so that can trick the system. But what we do is, this is why our IT actually goes behind and actually looks, okay, is the mouse moving where it's supposed to be? And
Yes.
that's just helpful. And we don't do it to necessarily catch people, but what we are doing it for is, are they being efficient? And as we've
Mhm.
talked on this podcast previously, we've had several fax wranglers, and we had other fax wranglers way outperforming our current fax wranglers. And we're like, well, what's going on? And what it was our new fax wranglers found a way more efficient way of processing faxes, basically using templates. And anyone who
Mhm.
comes over to Offsite team, we'll actually give you our templates so that people can process faxes faster when they come into the system. But it's one of those things. So we're aware of kind of what's going on. And if there's something new out there, I'm always reading the articles. I love listening to this stuff, listening to the tech podcasts. But it's really helpful to have this back end screen tracking so we can at least kind of double check the work.
Mhm.
And because at the end of the day, it's, can we be safe with our cybersecurity? But B, how do we improve our output? Because, you only work 8 hours a day. I
Mhm.
sometimes work more, but I'm salary. But what do we do in the 8 hours we have each day per team member?
Right.
So, what have you learned in the process, understanding kind of the back end side of things?
Just putting myself in the client or the patient situation, like
Hmm.
how will I feel if I know that my informations are scattered all over?
Yeah, really.
So,
Hmm.
mhm. So it's one of those things that we're really taking care of our patients, making sure that all the data are secured, and we're doing like monthly checking of the computer in order
Hmm.
to ensure that we have a computer that's working, and at the same time that it passed all the requirements that we have for the offsite team, because not only it will help us do our job better, but also in taking care of the business.
Now, I don't even know if you know this. Brightree has this feature. So our clients who do have Brightree, any CSR or team member who goes in and changes anything in a patient file, that is logged in Brightree. And one of the
Correct.
nice things about that is we can also go back and take that alongside the data that we have in our
Hmm.
screen tracking software. We don't usually use it as a gotcha game, but what we are, it's all
Hmm.
about efficiency, and it's all about cutting down the errors. Because the more
Hmm.
error, anytime there's a denial of claim, that, let's just say it's $1,000 claim, that's $1,000 that does not hit our bank account this month, that might push it towards next month, or heaven forbid it
Hmm.
gets pushed towards another month, and then the deductible hits and then you have to go chase the money. So it's all about, there are some great efficiencies in the process. And I
That's
will
right.
also say, just like the IRS, how they used to catch certain tax cheats and some other things, we have some back end things that I can't talk about, but I'd be happy to tell any of our clients that we have,
Hmm.
that essentially assures that when someone does come through the back channel, and we get these 2 to 3 times a day, people trying to hack our system, we know they're cheats. And
Hmm.
because they don't understand, there is, I'm trying to figure out how to say it without saying it. Let's just put it, there's some things,
Right.
it is. It's like, I'm a runner, and this is a good example. I'm a runner. I have run for
Hmm.
40 years, and you might see someone running in the movies. I always know if that person has been trained in proper running technique, because there's what a proper runner looks like and what a not proper runner looks like. And I'm like, yeah, that person knows nothing. They just grab someone off. And I know, because I've spent 40 years learning and coaching other people to run. We have the same thing in our business. We know exactly what we're looking at. And if you're going to fool us, it's going to have to probably be someone that was in the DME industry. And I mean, there might be, but typically the people who are going to hack computers are going to be based out of Russia, China. They're probably going to come after us now. But what I want to do is basically say, hey, we have the security in place to do the best that we possibly can to protect patient data. And that's what we need to do. I'm not going to go too much more into this, because it's one of those things. What I want people to know is your data is protected, and we have some back-end we have lots of back-end channels, way too many back-end channels to do it. And then there's also insurance as well too. And we carry insurance because we need to, because there are bad people that want to steal our stuff. So, but where I'm at with this, if you have questions regarding like what's the back end cyber side of things with hiring a remote worker in the Philippines, we have it. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. And because a lot of it is, let's take care of your back end data so you can get more done, so you can live a great life with your family, playing sports, hiking, doing church, vacationing, whatever it is that just fills your cup. The great thing about having offsite team members is we are here so you can reclaim more of your time, aren't we, April?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, here we are. We're here to help you. If you have any questions, reach out to us at offsiteteammember.com. And until next week, we look forward to sharing with you our podcast. You guys take care.